Item 2, consideration and appointment and or reaffirmation of the Joint Review Board's public member. Previously, Jerry Bach has served in that capacity, and I would entertain a motion to, or a reaffirmation to have Jerry, if you're so inclined, Jerry, to continue.
I'm here. Showing up.
So. Yeah, right. To the public, as our public member to the Joint Review Board. Sir, motion by Cummings. Is there a second? Second by Wiegand. Any discussion? Seeing none, I'll move into a vote. All in favor, signal by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The ayes have it. Item 3, election and or reaffirmation of chairperson. Are there any nominations? I guess open and close for nominations. Anybody wants to be nominated to be chair?
I nominate the Citizen of the Year.
Oh. So accept. Any other nominations? If not, I'll close nominations. Seeing no further nominations, I'll call for unanimous consent to have myself. Unanimous consent. Any objection? All right. So I will happily remain as chair here for a short agenda. Item 4, discuss responsibilities of the Joint Review Board. Phil, do you want to take that?
I certainly will. Thank you, Mayor. Phil Costin with Ellers and Associates, and we've been working with the city staff on putting together the tax increment project plan. I'll just talk a little bit about the responsibilities of the Joint Review Board. I think most of you have been through this in the past. There is maybe a reminder where we go through a step process here to get approval, hopeful approval. We have this initial Joint Review Board meeting. Again, no action by you tonight except for the final meeting. And then it'll go to Plan Commission. We do have a Plan Commission, a public hearing scheduled for 4 o'clock tonight. If it's approved by Plan Commission, it's scheduled to go to the City Council on March 19th, and then final Joint Review Board will come back to you for final vote at that time. And as always, you need to answer the but-for test and but-for tip when the project occur. And to answer that, there's these 3 questions that have been laid out by the state that are going to be part of the project plan and part of the final resolution as well, that you have to answer the affirmative to. And I think we could talk a little bit about that as we get into the actual details of the project plan. So those are your responsibilities.
Any questions on the responsibilities portion? Okay, thanks, Phil. We'll move on to item 5, discuss and review project plan for what we are believing to be an exciting project.
Yes,
Phil?
Adam, do you want to kick it off or do you want me to? Okay. All right. It's always great to come with great news, and I know Adam and their group have been working very hard. The city attorney's been working on a development agreement, and there's a number of steps that we've gone through already in relation to the proposed development. This will be, and if you go into the project plan itself, I have copies of the project plan. Plan Commission members, you want to raise your hand?
There's a couple Plan Commission members.
I have those too. Any other Plan Commission members?
No. Do you want a copy?
You want a copy? You have a copy? Okay, great, thanks. This will be an industrial district, as what's being proposed is really an industrial development. So if you go into page 4 of the project plan, there's an executive summary, and it spells out a number of the details related to this district. This is a pretty simple district as far as we're talking about. It's really 4 parcels, but really what I consider one development site that we're talking about. It's pretty self-contained. It was originally part of tax increment district number 6, and so we are overlaying tax increment district number 8 over these 4 parcels. And by doing so, what it does is really resets the clock for the tax increment district. So you get the full 20-year life to be able to capture increment over that time period, which makes this project financially feasible for the city. So if you go look at the executive summary again, it's an industrial district. We have about $2.85 million in project costs that have been identified. That is some development incentives we'll talk about in more detail. It is a rail spur project that is necessary for the company. And then we've also identified a road project in here that could be a future phase if there's increment to do so. There may be benefit to some road project that we'll talk about. The good news here is that we do show that this district, with the cash flow laid out right now, would close out early. Again, it's allowed 20 years. We're looking at about a 15-year payback here for this tax increment district. So it's not so tight that we're looking for the full 20-year life to make this work. We are identified $8 million under economic development, $8 million in new taxable development. The city owns the property, so there's a zero base there right now as a result of the ownership by the city. And what they have committed to in the development agreement, or I should say draft agreement, we're not final, is a minimum value guarantee of $8 million. What they're looking to construct out there is substantially more. But as the case with any manufacturing type property, what they build it for is very different than where it's assessed typically. So what we've asked for is a guarantee of $8 million. So that's a quick summary of what we're talking about. In the middle of page 5, you can see under economic benefits, the second bullet point there, they're expected to create somewhere between 80 and 100 jobs in that range, and that'll be spelled out within the development agreement as well, so that everybody knows that there's an expectation that they're going to follow through with the number of jobs that they have identified. So that's in this as well. We have a map showing the location. If you go to page number 8 in the project plan, here's the location. As I indicated, it's 4 parcels. It's one large parcel and then some adjoining parcels that are identified. On page 9, it shows where the overlap is with tax increment district number 6. That's a required map for project plans, so you have that showing the location as it pertains to TID 6. Most of TID 6 is not going to be overlaid with 4, just this portion of tax increment district number 6 to allow again for a longer recapture or longer capturing of increment and a longer time period for the tax increment district to stay open. On page 11, and
Bill, I just have
Yeah.
one, but on the plan there, I haven't driven out there, but East Commerce Drive to be vacated, we didn't do any curb and gutter and
Right. Yeah, it's just underground
it's just,
utilities.
yeah, that's what I thought.
that's part of the development agreement is
Yeah.
a vacation of
But I
the
mean,
East
there's
Commerce. Right.
no
it's-
substantial improvements on that,
Right.
it's just more or less a plan on the paper right now.
Right.
If you go to page 11, that's a listing of the parcels to be included. I hope you have better eyesight than I do because I have a hard time reading that. Maybe, Jerry, if you hold it over there, I could read it. I'm not quite sure yet. But anyway, those are the 4 parcels identified. Again, because it's owned by the city, there's no base value right now, meaning the other taxing bodies are not collecting any type of increment on those parcels right now. And we'll see $8 million in value. We have a list of the actual projects that are being contemplated. If you go to page 20 in the plan, we have, again, as I identified, we have really 3 major projects. The rail spur of $600,000. The expectation is that there'll be a $300,000 grant that'll be coming back to the city, and so that money will be used to reduce the cost of that rail spur. So the out-of-pocket or TIF cost really is going to be $300,000, but we reflect the full $600,000 here. Development incentives of $100,000. How that is structured is that there's a $400,000 incentive up front to the developer or to the company, I'm sorry, and then $600,000 will be reimbursed back out of the increment that they generate. So it kind of reduces some of the risk to the city, and that they're only putting some of the money up front. The rest is going to be paid out of the taxes that they actually pay, the company pays over time. And then the 48th Street North project is a project that's kind of out in a future phase. We've identified work that could be done on that road that would benefit this district. I think it's safe to say that we would only do that, the city would only do that project if there is significant or sufficient increment to be able to pay for that, and the project is actually needed at that time. So the timing of that is a little bit in flux, but it'll be a future phase.
Quick question, Phil, on property acquisition. I know we talked about it at a staff level, but when I read into the section here, can you remind us of what the eligibility of acquiring property outside the TIF?
Yeah, it's, we had a couple questions as it pertains to, so the road project is not located in the boundaries of the district. What we're using is what's called a half-mile radius allowance, and if a project is located within a half-mile of the TIF boundary, and it's deemed as being beneficial to the overall TIF, then we can identify that as a TID eligible expense. In the case of property acquisition, that is not the case. The law is very specific as to the type of projects that can be included in the half-mile radius, and property acquisition is not one of them.
Because it's an open meeting.
Well, but it,
The property we don't own, Mayor, is just north of there, right? Between this and the railroad?
Right.
Yeah.
That's why I was asking.
Yeah.
I'm just reading it. You're saying as long as it was in the boundaries of the TIF, we could.
Right.
we could
That's
acquire.
right. Outside we cannot. So who owns the parcel? Is that in the?
Some of it's singular ownership. There's some. It's also not in the corporate limits.
Oh, it's not. So it'd have to be an annexation.
Yeah.
So I guess one way to think about it is we have the ability to amend this 4 times.
Yeah.
You know, if there was an annexation that occurred in the future and you thought that could be viable, more industrial space or land for development, that certainly could be brought in
Okay.
to the tax.
Just wanted to clarify that.
Yeah, and then if that was the situation, Mary, you could use TIF dollars to pay for the acquisition.
Okay.
Once it was in the village or in the city and within the boundaries of the district.
Thank you.
So we've put together, as always, a cash flow for this. You can see that cash flow is showing. Well, maybe before I get to that, page 24 is the development assumption. Very simple here. We kept this as simple as possible. The telco they've come back and said that they'll do $8 million minimum value guarantee. If they are taxed above that, that's the level they're taxed at. But if they're taxed at a level lower than $8 million, then they'll be taxed at $8 million per the agreement. And we see those type of agreements all through the state. We took a stab a little bit working with staff here as to how much value would occur in 19 versus 20. I think they'd guarantee the project be wrapped up in 2020. Now, what was the timing of it, Adam?
Yeah, they're shooting for groundbreaking in spring, summer this year, and then 18 months construction.
Okay.
So ideally by the end of 2020.
By the end of 2020. How much gets built and valued this year is to be determined, obviously, and you know, who knows when they get able to start looking outside. There's a little snow that has to melt. So, but we're looking at $8 million. On the next page is how we determine increment. For your sake, we did not, you know, we're not showing anything besides the $8 million, just because that's what they guaranteed. We don't show any property appreciation. We don't show a change in tax rate. Everything kind of stable through the life of the district. Again, because it's right now just one project. And then the last page, or the page 26 is the cash flow, and I don't want to get into all the details here, but here we do show a T grant of $300,000 to pay for half of the rail spur project coming in. And then we kind of built this out. This includes the road project that I talked about earlier, 48th Street North Road project. And even with that road project, this district closes out 4 to 5 years earlier than maximum life. So at $8 million with the deal that's been put together by the city staff, I think you're in good shape to make sure that this district will cash flow through its life.
Excellent. Other questions? Board members?
The only thing I'll add is, at this point, we have a special finance committee that is going to be scheduled for the 14th, so next Thursday. The development agreement and the sale agreement would be reviewed by the finance committee at that meeting, as well as Metelco being present to give an overview of the project, answer questions, that type of thing. So that will be, if you're looking for more details on the specifics of the project, by all means, you're invited to attend that meeting as well.
And the city is working with outside counsel as well on assistance with the development agreement, and you know, there's always some complexities with these, and being I think they're a Canadian firm, wanting to make sure that we're well represented on the city side. So city is working with Quarles and Brady, who's also the city bond counsel, on assisting with the development agreement, which I think was wise, just given they're not a known entity in this area, and then I think it's really important to make sure you're well represented.
What they do? What are they planning to do?
Oh, with the company itself?
Yeah.
So basically an aluminum extrusion and a billet manufacturer. So they're going to take in the aluminum scrap and then melt it down in furnaces, casting pits, and then extrude it. Would be the simplest explanation I would offer. So the rail spur is obviously a component of their transportation. That was what really drew them to the site, in addition to natural gas capacity, in terms of infrastructure desires. So We Energy still has some improvements to make to get that, and then the water and light utility, our public utility, will be making a number of electrical upgrades. They're actually going to put a localized substation to pull off the ATC line that's there, so give them the best reliability they can get from a power standpoint. And they're also working on putting together something for the Public Service Commission to consider on a rate. So I think those were the components. They're not a heavy water user, but definitely power and natural gas and the limited rail for that.
And as I understood it when they were making their presentation, their finished product is going to be kind of a raw ingot of aluminum that then goes to some firm that takes that and makes door frames and whatever else might be needed. So.
And the positions there have been pretty above minimum wage.
Yeah, good question. And I don't think there was anything really included in there. The information that they submitted to us in the state, so WEDC has some resources, basically $1 million tax credit that they pitched to the project, and their wage stratification within there, the average of all 80 positions was about $24 an hour. I think $15 to $17 an hour for unskilled, and then there's semi-skilled and skilled. So I think it was like 17, 22, I didn't bring my packet, and then some above, the local HR plant manager, and obviously that's all factored in there. But I think the group breakdown of employees was what, 25 in the unskilled, 25 skilled, semi-skilled, and 20. It was sort of an equal split, if I recall.
The 80 is basically the labor force, and then a lot of the HR or the office staff wasn't included in the 80, at least not expected. So that's why the 80 to 100 job range is expected.
That's right.
So yeah.
Good question. And I think, so they've got a plant in, so they're a Brampton, Ontario-based company, but they've got a plant in Lordstown, Ohio, which is where like GM's got a big manufacturing facility and others. They, and basically this is a replica of that plant. So from air quality, they've got some permitting that they still have to follow with the state before any of this obviously proceeds. So air quality and other environmental reviews. And then, but in terms of wages and such, they were able to get some indication from the other markets that they operate. So I think that gave us a degree of comfort from when we originally assembled the joint review board on the project last fall. I think we met upstairs.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So project scope has pretty much stayed the same. They obviously are on the hook for the first phase, and Adam talked about the developers agreement. It's a big parcel of property for what they're planning to do initially, so we really wanted to make sure that we weren't precluding ourselves from being able to maximize that utility of that site. So they did commit to a phase 2 of something yet to be determined. I think we're still negotiating what those phase 2 components are within the project, so that'll happen before the developers agreement gets executed. Overall, very exciting project for us. And I think 300 construction jobs in some form being created over the entirety of the project. concrete suppliers are going to be the biggest challenge for them to locate. But a lot of indirect jobs from the local trucking businesses. They were really interested in getting connected with those folks, as well as shutdown work. Since it is a manufacturing facility, they'll have an annual shutdown that'll bring trades and a lot of other folks to the facility. So it was exciting for when they made their announcement here a couple of weeks ago. Folks were already getting connected with their ownership group, and they've been a really down-to-earth group to work with since we met them. First engaged about a year ago now, March of last year, and then we first hosted them for some of their site visits with the city in June. I think mid-June. So we first had them on site that we knew who they were at that point. Anything else?
Be a busy spring for the bars and restaurants with all the construction workers we're gonna have in town.
And where do they stay, right? I think the
Where do they
hotel
stay,
folks are going to be pretty excited if there's crews coming from out of town. They'll be selecting their general contractor very soon. They've already selected it, but they'll be announcing a general contractor at some point. I know they put the projects out to bid for 2 folks to bid on, and it's a big project for a lot of local folks to consider. So I'm thinking there's going to be a lot more subs that'll be pulled in as opposed to a general that'll be local. I don't expect that to be the case. So, anything else for the good of the order? Do you want to set our next meeting date?
Yeah, if this proceeds, Mayor, we'll have council action on the 19th. We'll have to do 1 week notice. I'm thinking the first week of April maybe would be. Is there a time identified in the draft agreement that the TID would be in place? Do you remember offhand? I don't think there was, but yeah, okay. Because we could probably push it into the week before that, but it'd be tight.
Just wondering if we wanted to tie it around planning commission again.
I mean, the company will be here going through site plan approval process at the
When is that?
Planning Commission.
Oh, okay. The
Which
first.
one?
The first Monday in April.
April 1st?
Yeah.
We could shoot for April 1st, if that works for the group.
Yeah. Works for me. 3 or 3:30. Do you have a
Same
preference?
time?
Same time, 3:30? Okay. Okay.
Beeren has a meeting on the following Monday.
Right.
And I think, unless I'm mistaken, what we would also do is do the annual review of our existing TIDs at that meeting as well. So maybe we would want to move it up to more 3 o'clock, 3:30,
3 o'clock?
3 o'clock?
3 o'clock is good. Okay.
so that we can
Yeah, Beeren's
kill
next
two
week.
birds, one stone.
That works. Are they creating a TID?
No, there's a revenue sharing that's going on.
Okay. Good. Entertain a motion to adjourn. Motion by Bach, is there a second? Regan, any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We're adjourned.